Hi, first grade. So I'm hoping everyone was able to see some of my PowerPoint slides about pattern, and you did some of those practice papers that I sent home with you. And then the other PowerPoint where we were taking a look at the artist Romero Britto. So we are going to start a project. This project should take us a couple different, about 2 videos, but this is something where you should be working on it at home, like little by little. I don't want this to be something that you spend more than 15 minutes on at a time. So first thing that we are going to do is just like class. First of all, let me backtrack a second. You're going to need a piece of paper and a pencil. So I'm hoping everyone at home has some blank white paper, computer paper, and a pencil. Okay. But so just like in class, I want to see that you are going to write your name and your class code on the back of your paper. You're going to flip it over, and then we are going to focus on drawing a heart. Okay. Now I can think back to when I was in first grade, and I remember drawing a heart hundreds of times. One side always kind of came out looking a little bit off, a little bit lopsided. So when you're drawing your heart, I want you to take your time. I always start at that top little V part of the heart and kind of draw one side, and then I go to the other side and I draw up and then connect it back down at the point. If you don't like the way your heart looks, there's no issue with starting over. You guys know that I'm a big fan of using your eraser and using your eraser to erase the part that you do not like. Okay. Once you have your heart drawn, your next step is to use your pencil, and you are going to start dividing your heart into little sections. If you notice, I'm going pretty slow. I'm taking my time. I'm not making too big of sections, and I'm not taking too small of sections. In a second, I'm going to, on a separate piece of paper, draw a heart and show you what not to do. So I'm kind of carelessly just drawing crisscross lines. I'm not really paying attention. I'm going way too fast. I'm making way too small of areas in my heart. And then our next step is going to be to fill those little areas and spaces. So if you have really tiny spaces, you're going to drive yourself crazy trying to fill them in with a pattern. Okay? Once you have your heart set up with those little sections, I took a black Sharpie. At home, you might have a black Sharpie. Awesome. Use that. Make sure that whatever you're drawing on, you put a piece of paper underneath your paper. If you have newspaper, cardboard, although cardboard might give it a little texture, you just want to make sure that you're not going to ruin the table that you're drawing on if the Sharpie bleeds through. If you don't have a Sharpie, find maybe a black marker. If you don't have a black marker, a black color pencil would work, a black crayon. I personally think a black marker would work best because of our next step. But what we're doing right now is we're tracing over our heart that we drew, and then we're going in and tracing right over those section lines that we created, the crisscrossing little section lines. Once you have those all traced over, you're going to take your eraser and you are going to erase any pencil lines that are showing through. So I kind of took my time. I examined each little area to see if I had any showing through. Took my eraser and I erased them. Okay. So after your heart is erased and you are ready for the next step, I grabbed my pattern example paper. I had attached one into your packets that I sent home. If not, I also attached it in Google Classroom. If you weren't able to see that, you could always Google a pattern, patterns in art, different lines, shapes, patterns, or you guys are in first grade, and I'm sure most of you have learned a pattern in kindergarten. One of my first grade classes, we actually got to practice patterns, so you already have some experience. But you can be creating patterns of your own. You don't necessarily need that worksheet in front of you. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to take each section of your heart, and you are going to fill in a pattern that fills that whole section. So my first section, I did a bumpy line. And I kept it simple. I only picked that one line, bumpy line, and I repeated it again and again and again, and I filled the whole space. In the end, it reminds me of kind of mermaid scales, so that's kind of what I was going for. But if you notice in that first section, I filled the entire section. I didn't leave big white gap areas. In my next pattern that section that I start to draw, I draw some straight vertical lines that go up and down all throughout that little section, and then I filled it in with some zigzag lines every other line. So be really creative with it. Take your time. You guys are at home. We don't have a limit on how much class time we have. So maybe you work on it for 10 minutes and then you put it away until tomorrow and then you work on it some more. This is a project that should take you a while. Try your best to really stay inside your lines, make nice, neat lines, and really get creative with some of your designs and patterns. Okay, try to think of ones that maybe I didn't give you on our pattern paper. Okay. At the very end, your paper should have every section filled with a pattern. There should be no big white gap areas still showing. Okay, so once you have every single pattern filled, then that is it for the first step of this project. Okay, so I hope first grade that you guys have a lot of fun. Take a look at some of Romero Britto's work that I attached on our PowerPoint, or ask a sibling, family member to Google his artwork and take a look at some patterns that he incorporates in his art, because that's who we're trying to draw inspiration from. And I hope that you guys have a lot of fun, and I will chat with you guys in our next video. All right, have fun, first grade.